My aim here is to teach you how to render some images. In a previous video I have shown you how to put some horns on your little monkey head, but we're going to render this now. Now I've got a really terrible paint job, so don't laugh too bad, but when I go into rendered mode you'll see here's my monkey head. I've only got one light source, so we're going to put in two more. I'm going to look from the top. I'm going to push this little Z up here. This item is my camera, and I'm going to use my imagination. So if I draw a straight line from the camera to my object, I'm going to have one light source here at about 45 degrees. That's not exactly, but it'll do for now. I'm going to add in another light source. I'm going to go Shift A, and it's brought up this list. It's not the list I'm after because I'm in edit mode. So I've got to be in object mode for this. Shift A, and now I can come down to light. There's different kinds of lights. I've already got one point light. I'm going to use either an area light or a sun. They're usually quite good for this sort of thing, so I'll use an area light, and that has inserted itself here where the 3D cursor is. So it's in the middle of where the monkey head is. So I'm going to push G for grab, Z for the Z axis, and that's going to come straight up. Then I will look again from the top and I'll bring it over in this region. So I'm just going to push G and I can move it anywhere I like, and then when I confirm I'll just left click. Then I'm going to look from the side and I'm going to push R to rotate, move my mouse, and then click to confirm. And I'm essentially trying to have that a few more clicks and rotates and move them around. I'm having that aiming at the monkey's head. A couple of things I'm going to check. Looking on the right hand side, I'm going to click the thing that looks like the back of a camera. The render engine is Eevee, so I'm going to change that to cycles, and you'll see a little bit of a flicker. This light up here is probably very low powered right now, so I'm going to check up on that. On the right hand side you look at this green looking icon, object data property. So with the area light highlighted, I'll click on this. You'll see it's only 10 watts. That's pretty pathetic. So I can either click in here and type it, or I can click and hold my mouse button and drag off to the right. So if you bring that up to 300-400 watts, something like that, you'll get plenty of light coming from the side. I don't want to get no shadows. I do want them off on an angle. So this is essentially trying to make something similar to a 3-point lighting system. So this one here is currently, I reckon, about 90 degrees to the camera. So if I bring it around to the front slightly more, it's a little bit sort of front on. This is the camera. If I want to look through the camera, I can click this button, or if you've got a number pad or numpad, you can push 0. So looking at this, we can see some shading in the ear, that's fine, and some shading under here again, that's fine. This isn't a lighting series, this is just getting you to render. I think that this camera is too far away from the subject, so the easiest way to move the camera, I'm going to push the letter N, and you'll see over here my screencast keys have told me N. You don't have screencast keys because you won't have installed it, but I'm going to click View, and there's a tick box here in the middle called Lock Camera to View. It's underneath this lock view if it happens to be minimized. So I tick it, and then outside the edge of the camera becomes a dotted red line, and if I move the camera around, or my view around, the camera goes with it. So I'm going to scroll in a bit, and there's my monkey in the right place. It's a good idea to remember to untick lock camera to view, and so now if I middle mouse and move away, camera stays where it is, but my view changes. Sometimes you'll put in a simple point light in the back, so Shift A, point, and then I'll put one over here. This can be quite useful if you do have a background. In this case I simply don't. If I put in some ground, Shift A, mesh, go plane, scale that, push S for scale, 2, 0, and then push enter. I've now got a plane. You'll see that there's areas where the light's not hitting so much. GZ, and I'll bring that down. You can see some shadows being cast from the area light and from the point light, but not so much from that point light, because that point light in the back is very weak at 10 watts. You might notice these two shadows behave slightly differently. This shadow's got sharper edges, whereas this shadow cast from the area light has quite soft edges. That is because of its size. If you make this size really large, you get soft shadows. That's a setting I can have on an area light. If I look on this point light over here, we've got power and color just like before, but I also do have size. So if I want to boost that size, then that'll make the shadow much softer. It does affect the shadows a wee bit. You do want shadow to try to give your eye information about the shape, so don't go too crazy about making them too big. You just don't want to have multiple shadows all over the place. It just looks a little bit funny. So anyway, once you've put in some extra lights, enough to see, and your camera is positioned correctly, you can render. So if I come up to the render button up here, click render, and then go render image, you'll see that the shortcut key is F12. Depending on your keyboard and how it's working, you might have to push Fn and F12 if it happens to have things like volume control instead of the button F12 working normally. In my classroom I have cheap keyboards, so you can just push F12. So I go render image. Now this one will take a fair bit more time because it's cycles, and you can see the time remaining is 3 minutes. It's been going for 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. This is the first frame. It renders by tiles, and you'll see a tile count here. Other things that we can do later on is we could put on noise reduction if we found that there was a lot of noise. I'll zoom in and try and find some noise. So there's a little bit of sort of graininess here, and some might consider that noisy. I don't think it's too bad, not for what it is. Now, I'm going to show you how to change render engines and compare speeds and quality of rendering this with Cycles, which is what I'm using right now, and that'll take about 2.5 to 3 minutes. And I will also do it with Eevee. That's a different render engine. Usually gives slightly lower quality, but it's significantly faster. Now, if I click image and I look for save at the moment, the image isn't finished, so you'll see save as is grayed out. But once it's finished, the options for save, see it's disabled, can't save while rendering. So there we go, that's 1:50, and if I click on slot 1 up here, I can change to another slot, so it's a memory slot. And I'm going to change, we're looking on the right hand side over here, I'm going to change render engine from Cycles to Eevee, and it will render quite differently. You'll see the shadows are behaving differently. There's various different settings that can be played around with in Eevee, but this isn't the video for that. So I go render image, and this will be really rapid, I hope. Here we go. That took 2 seconds, and we can compare slot 2 to slot 1, and you'll see it's behaved differently. Slot 2 to slot 1 got better shadows, I think, there in the Eevee engine. There's more bounce, light hitting the plane below and bouncing up, so it's a little bit more accurate. But that's the simplest part of doing some rendering. That's just a single image. So now I could go click image and then go save as, and then go and save it wherever I was looking to save my image. So this one is the Eevee, and this is in my monkey demo folder, save as image, and then I could go to slot 2. Oops, I got them the wrong way around. This one's the Eevee one. Image, save as. I'll click Eevee render there. I'll put a 2. Save as. I'll go rename that other one later. So I've got 2 different images. That's simplest. How do you do rendering? After our next project, I'll show you some other stuff on how to get your camera moving, but I hope this helps as a beginning step.